those questions. Well, you know what, since we're on the topic, go ahead and follow up to it, because it'll stay in theme and in context for people.
Thank you. I appreciate what the sheriff has to say about the sheriff cite and release policies, and that means when the 27 law enforcement agencies of Contra Costa County bring someone into the county jail, they might be cited and released before charges are filed. However, once charges are filed and people go to court, it is a judicial decision, often that's keyed off of charges filed and prosecutorial decisions, but that's out of the sheriff's hands and doesn't really rest on his policies. So I don't want anyone to think that bail reform wouldn't significantly impact the number of people that might be detained by a judge's decision on money bail because they can't afford it in Contra Costa County. And in the last 6 months, I've sat beside people in sitting in the arraignment department in custody on simple possession of drugs, sitting in jail, on petty theft, on identity theft, on lots of theft and possession of drugs, low-level, non-violent charges. Again, lots of that rests on judicial decisions, but the new legislation would change that. It would be providing reminders to people to come to court, in some cases providing them transportation. Those are some of the big barriers for people getting to court. If prosecutors wanted to detain someone and not allow them to be released if they were meeting the risk threshold, they would have to file a motion, and that would be litigated. So it would very significantly change the complexion of what happens in the courtroom and how many people were detained, and I think it would shift that from individuals, again, that are lower wealth. And I do think, and the sheriff mentioned Mr. Saidi from my office, who does a lot of immigration community work, and since the election with our Clean Slate program, we've been doing a lot of Know Your Rights work in the immigrant community, and we've had a lot of chance to really listen to folks and work with them, and I speak fluent Spanish, so throughout my 16 years, I've really represented lots of people that are also monolingual Spanish-speaking people, some of them who are have immigration issues, and the recent complexion and change nationally is terrorizing and devastating and traumatizing families and communities. So the things aren't viewed the way they were 3 to 6 months ago, the way they were before the election. So people are afraid to go to church, they're afraid to visit family members, people aren't taking their children to mental health appointments, they're afraid to drop children off at school. And so having this detention facility in our community might be viewed a little differently than it was before the elections. I just wanted to comment on that. And I know that there are also a number of individuals that are in the ICE detention facility for a variety of reasons, and certainly, many of them come there because they've, been, come into contact with immigration and not necessarily anything to do with the criminal justice system. So I do think you have many families that have family members there and all of that as well. And people that are detained there, I don't know if you know this, but they spend a fortune on phone calls. So one part of the sheriff's budget is being able to capture the phone calls that family members pay for those that are both in criminal detention and in immigration detention. So I just wanted to clarify those 2 points.
Thank you. Antonio, did you want to talk about the bail reform bill or the ICE detainees?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay.
AB 3, now before our legislature of Sacramento, will give public defenders the tools to adequately advise their clients. We have found that when somebody is picked up by ICE, if they have a lawyer, they won't be deported because they'll find something that they can stay here in this country. The second bill, SB 6, will provide legal representation to immigrants in detention centers. If you're a U.S. citizen, you have a right to a lawyer. The Constitution and the courts have said, even if you're not a U.S. citizen, you have a right to legal representation. That's part of our law. I go every first Saturday at the vigil at the county jail, West County Detention Facility. You should join us there. It's only 1 hour, 11 to 12. We have people who come and speak who have been detained. And I didn't hear that they were murderers, arsonists, weapon holders, and carjacking. These are parents who got stopped because it went through a red light, and the officer finds out they're undocumented and they get popped. Half of the people who have been deported in the last 6 months were deported for traffic violations. And the ACU is fighting those cases. So maybe he's relating the history of 10, 20 years ago. But we talk to all those people. We provide legal assistance to those folks. The other one is, of course, California Senate Bill 54. When that passes, it'll mean simply one thing. No official in the state of California, including the police, including the sheriff, all we're saying is don't cooperate with ICE. It's not sanctuary. We don't put people up. We're simply saying don't cooperate with ICE. Where does Claudia live? I have no idea. Where does Antonio live? I have no idea. Look them up on your own. They're the federal police. We can't stop them. But we can say don't cooperate with them. There's such a fear in our community right now. We have done now in last month 645 Know Your Rights in Spanish. The fear is there. And when I teach them that you have rights and you use that magic phrase, I want to speak to my lawyer. They brighten up. You don't have papers, you have the same right. I want to speak to my lawyer. And we're training people to respond and not be afraid. So we're working a lot on that. Hopefully, when Senate Bill 52 passes, 54 passes, we'll have that. Basically, it means no cooperation with ICE. That's all it means. Thank you.
Claudia, did you want to chime in before I move on to a mental health question on any of on the bail reform or the ICE detainees?
I think like you have this letter from the prison laws office, so please read it. But what we want is that we first try many different things before we build this new jail. And pre-trial, we have a small pre-trial program that can be expanded, that can give resources. If the bail reform passes, is pretty likely that the reduction of people in jails is going to reduce. And if we implement a diversion programs, and also if Nancy Skinner budget resolution that will transfer 80 million for jail expenditures to build mental health treatment facilities, and if this is the way, like the way that California is going to, is to reduce jail population and to reduce prisoners. So why we are talking about a jail expansion before we try other options? And I hope that you read the prison law office letter that is on your, because they have so many, they have been suggesting a lot of good examples. And then also that we need to advocate for the county to do an independent assessment of the jail's needs assessment. I don't think the jail's needs assessment that the county has right now is the best way. This county jail's needs assessment was with the idea that a jail was going to build. And so it didn't look for other options. So there is, we need to do that. And in LA, they did that, and they provide different options, not only a jail expansion. So we need to have that conversation before we are going to spend $25 million in a building and over $5 million, and I think it's going to be more, and also have a really budget assessment of that jail proposal. Because a lot of that is sort of the services is going to hire people, but it's not like union, it's outsourcing also the job. So
Thank you, Claudia. And actually that budgetary question segues really for a question for the Board of Supervisors for Jill, standing in for Candace and Sheriff Livingston, is Nancy Skinner's bill, which I'm sure you both have looked at it already, which is currently floating, in regards to reducing jail funding activities. And if it were to pass, it's going to change the allocation that Contra Costa County would be awarded. And therefore, one can speculate that that allocation would then reduce what your award amount would be, therefore resulting in you having to go back to the County Board of Supervisors and asking them to subsidize even more than the $25 million you're asking initially to move this jail forward.